Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, let's go. Let's get into it. Come on. Welcome to the 27th Annual Research Showcase. I'm Dave Maruca, and it is my honor, once again, to be your moderator. The DOT's theme for this year's event is preparing the workforce for the future. Cell phones, please put them on mute at this time, though we will be talking about your cell phones in a few minutes. If you could put them on mute, we'd appreciate it. Restrooms, if you go outside this door and head towards the back on the right-hand side, there's a hallway right there, both upstairs and downstairs are the restrooms. Exits, please look at your exits. God forbid something happens here. You have exits in the back of this. If you go up the elevation here, you have exits over here, exits there, or just follow me. Believe me, I'll be the first one out to do it. If there's a problem, I see smoke, just follow me, you'll be fine. But do take, inventory on your area so that you kind of know, God forbid something happens, where you can exit. This is a smoke-free campus. So do not smoke anywhere on the premises, if you would, please. If you have any questions regarding the topic, please line up. Do we have the mics? Yes, we do. If you notice, if you look in the center aisle here, that is between the up and the lower section, there's two mics there. Please line up at those mics and position yourself, that's positioned in the center of the walkway of this auditorium at the end of each presentation. So the key is at the end. If you have a question, basically go up to the mic, and when the presenter is done, you can then ask the question to them. Certificates will be provided for attendance at the end, there's the end word again, of the day as you exit the building. This conference provides 2 professional development hours for professional engineers. You must sign out at the end of the day to receive the PDHs. We're also making available AICP maintenance credits for planners. Today's presentation and video live stream will be posted on the NJDOT Tech Transfer website after the event. Please do not bring food or drink into the auditorium. A survey of today's events will be sent to you via SurveyMonkey, so you'll receive an email to give an evaluation of today's conference. Please fill that out so we can improve the program in the future. Lastly, I would like to ask everyone at this time, I'm actually going to give you a task to do. To log in to the Wi-Fi here, is it up? As you see on the screen here, please log into the Wi-Fi here at Mercer using your device, more likely your cell phone, for the purpose of accessing Mentimeter, which is an interactive software application which allows you to give responses to the presenter using your connected device. Our keynote presenter and one of our panelists are using this platform to engage you. During their presentations, you will be prompted on a large screen to either enter an access code in menti.com or use your camera to capture the QR code that will also be on the screen. You will then be able to respond to their prompts with your connected device. So basically, you're going to be asked to answer a question, and then hopefully the goal is to be able to see what the responses are from the audience. So it's the ability for you to connect. But it all starts with connecting to the Wi-Fi here at Mercer, so please do that. For welcoming remarks, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Eric Powers. I just want to make sure Eric was here. Eric joined the department in 2001 as a transportation planner in the Division of Statewide Planning, serving as project manager for the state's first statewide freight transportation. Mr. Powers received several promotions throughout his DOT career, ultimately being appointed to the position of Assistant Commissioner of Statewide Planning, Safety, and Capital Investment in October of 2023. Eric earned a bachelor's degree in economics with a concentration in public sector finance from Florida State University and a master's degree in city and regional planning from none other than Rutgers University. Got to promote Rutgers everywhere I can. Let's give a warm welcome to Assistant Commissioner Eric Powers.
So thanks for warming up the crowd. My takeaway is when you enter a room, look for Dave. If he's there, it's safe to be in that room. If you don't see Dave, wait. So, welcome to the 27th Annual Research Showcase. I've got an easy job today. I just have the welcoming remarks. So I'd like to thank Federal Highway and FTA, who are our sponsors, counties, municipalities, elected officials, DOT staff, NJ Transit staff, Mercer County Community College, all the folks that are involved in the research, students, the professors. It really does take a community. If I missed anybody, it's because I'm not reading from the sheet, so the fault is all mine. So thank you for being here and participating today. When faced with change and uncertainty, it's very easy to focus on the now and what's right in front of you. Right? We live in the now, we live in the present. Its allure is a strong draw, right? It takes commitment and leadership to look ahead and ensure that we are allocating our resources, both in time and money, on things that address our needs today and set us up in our organization for the future to be better able and be more resilient to deal with tomorrow's challenges, right? So we always need to be spending some time, and it does take time, especially when things are going on. Research is one of those activities that checks those boxes. Not only does it build the capacity now in our students and our professors and our institutions, but it also, through the research, sets us up for a better tomorrow. So what a great thing to celebrate. And today the showcase is about you. You're in the showcase. You're what's being showcased. The students, the professors, the institutions, the private sector that supports you, all of your work, all of your commitment and the efforts you do are why we're here today, right? So this is your flex, so be proud in the moment. 27 years just with this event alone, but research has been going on long before the showcase was here. And it really is an impressive group and community that's been developed and that we've been investing in, and thank you for that. The theme this year for today is preparing the workforce for a better future. Turns out, just like research, people are a pretty good thing to invest in, right? Being a person myself, I'm fond of this notion. So how is our workforce going to be able to address the challenges that we're going to see in the future? And what do they need to be able to do their job? We're going to learn through today's panels, we're going to learn through discussions, and we're going to see through other research, how that's being addressed and steps that we can take. I started the department 25 years ago. I think one of the first events I went, because I was in planning, was a research showcase. I've seen things that were started then that are paying dividends now. I lived and we managed through the pandemic. There were technologies that we deployed that we didn't have before. MS Teams, even work from home, other accommodations, ways to move documents electronically. That didn't exist. We had a need, right? So keeping that eye on the future and dealing with what we have today's emergencies, is something to be proud of, and we've been keeping that commitment. So, like I said, we have a great presentation. Before I go on too long, if you could please join me in welcoming Commissioner Connor to the stage, Commissioner of Transportation and a strong champion of safety.
Morning, everybody. Morning. Just a shout out to all my colleagues here from the New Jersey DOT, but one special colleague here, Joe Bertoni, the Deputy Commissioner of the New Jersey DOT, been with the department for 37 years. He's been such a special resource to me coming here 2 years ago. So I'm glad to see you here, Joe. Thank you, Eric. Working in transportation, we're in the business of moving things. People, freight, projects. At the same time, the world around us is constantly in motion. Technology, data, priorities, it's all changing and evolving. And that means we have to evolve with it. So today's theme, preparing the workforce for the future, really couldn't be more timely, because the future isn't something out there on the horizon. It's being engineered and built right now by people like all of you who see challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to find smarter, safer ways to keep New Jersey moving. For 27 years now, the Research Showcase has been celebrating curiosity, the why, how, and what if. But it's also been about collaboration, the kind that happens when public agencies, universities, and industry partners bring their strengths together. That's how innovation truly happens. Not by working in isolation, by challenging each other to think critically, test assumptions, and challenge the status quo. Development talent is one of the smartest investments we can make at the New Jersey DOT. It's not enough to simply train people. We have to create an environment that inspires them to stay. That's why mentorship and knowledge transfer are so critical to our future. Programs like our Professional Engineering Design Experience, or PEDI, connect new and inspiring engineers with seasoned mentors who spent decades solving real-world challenges. These one-on-one lessons, the kind you can't find in a textbook, and what help carry all that institutional knowledge forward to the next generation. Safety remains our North Star at the New Jersey DOT. It guides every decision we make, whether designing a safer intersection, studying driving behavior, or testing new materials. That's why our work and your work matters so deeply. Because behind every model, every data set, every test run, there's a very human goal, making sure people get home safely. And I can't stress that enough. Even though we're down probably 14% on fatalities on our roads in the state this year, we're closing in on almost 500 people who have been lost on our roads this year. I'm looking forward to seeing how the ideas being showcased today make their way into construction zones, traffic management centers, and communities across the state. I want to thank the New Jersey DOT Bureau of Research and Innovation and Information Transfer, along with Rutgers Center for Advanced Infrastructure and Transportation, for creating this platform where bold thinking can take center stage. And for the students who are part of today's program, you represent the next generation of innovators. Every study, every experiment, every what-if question you ask brings us one step closer to understanding how to make our systems smarter, stronger, safer. Thank you, and let's have a great showcase.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, keynote address. Our keynote address will be delivered by Debra Sabatini Hennelly, founder and president of Resiliti. Debbie founded Resiliti in 2004 to provide consulting services and experiential learning with a focus on values-based conduct and holistic risk management. Along with talented colleagues and a comprehensive suite of services, Resiliti helps bring a life organizational values and a culture that supports the ideas, perspectives, courage, and dignity of each individual in a team and across an organization. Early in her career, she served as a general counsel and chief compliance officer for two chemical companies, Sonneborn and Proxichem. She also spent more than 10 years in legal and compliance leadership roles in AT&T, Lucent Technologies, Avaya, BP, and Avon Products. Prior to Debbie's corporate experience, she practiced law with two major law firms in Washington, D.C. and New Jersey, and was a civil and environmental engineer supervising construction for Exxon. Debbie is an adjunct professor for Fordham University's Law School program on corporate ethics and compliance and a Master of Legal Studies program. She coaches ethics and compliance professionals, helping them lead effectively and develop strategies for personal resilience. Debbie is passionate about helping navigate the challenges of influencing culture change, leading strategically, and addressing the potential for burnout. I got to speak to you after this is over. Janet didn't hear that. Oh, no, Janet did hear that. Debbie earned a BSE in Civil Environmental Engineering from Duke University and her JD, Juris Doctorate, from the University of Virginia School of Law. Let's give a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Debbie Sabatini Hennelly.
I think we're going to mic me up.
Okay.
Right.
You want to get mic'd up? Sure.
Right. I got it.
I'll get on.
I've done this once or twice.
I'll put it here. One.
Maybe I'll put that up. Go.
You think? Yeah,
This, I mean, this,
I think it's good.
if you're gonna move.
Yeah, and this goes behind me.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've done this once or twice. Is this the clicker over here? Yeah, okay. So while I find a waistband to hook this onto, let me start by saying my first job, which Dave mentioned, was supervising construction for Exxon. How did I get there? So you heard I went to Duke University. My dad is still at 93, a practicing architect and civil engineer, and got his degree at City College in New York for free. We spent a little more than that on my Duke education. I grew up in Ramsey, in Bergen County, for those of you who know Bergen County. So I learned how to drive on Route 17, Route 4, Route 46, and imagine my surprise when I saw the intersection of Route 17 and Route 4 in my transportation engineering textbook. It was, you know, a pretty scary intersection back then. But the innovation in this department has made it such a beautiful intersection now that, like, I kind of miss the old one. But I'll tell you, the job that Exxon was offering, you know, they hired a bunch of us that year, and I told them I would go anywhere in the world. And one of my girlfriends got to go to Louisiana and work on a platform in the Gulf of Mexico. They sent me to New Jersey to supervise construction of service stations. My dad thought this was kind of amusing because I probably could have designed the next, you know, Verrazzano Narrows Bridge, or maybe, you know, a major sewage treatment plant for some major city. And now I was gonna have to design quarter-acre, sometimes smaller, lots for trucks to come in and out of, get curb cut permits from you, and get stormwater drainage permits from DEP, none of which I was trained at Duke to do. So I have to tell you, now looking back at 65 years old, that was the best job a 22-year-old could have had, because I learned how to work in the world. I understood that I had to defer to people who knew a whole lot more than I did in order to make things happen on budget, on time, and to work in the world of legislation and rules and town ordinances. I was going to zoning meetings 3 times a week with, you know, some lawyer who was allowed to talk about how we were going to do what we were going to do. And back then, so I graduated from college in 1982. So you can imagine a zoning board seeing, you know, one of their favorite lawyers, and then having him, because it was always a man, stand up and say, "Hey, Joe, Larry, Mo, you know me, it was good to see you last time. Miss Sabatini over here is the engineer for Exxon, can you believe it? She's gonna tell you all about this project that she wants to do in neighborhood X." And then he would sit down, and for the next 2 or 3 hours, I'd have to advocate why you wanted something that could pollute your groundwater, would be probably a lot more light than you were used to in that neighborhood, and was going to bring big delivery trucks with thousands of gallons of gasoline in and out of your neighborhood. So you can, I think, understand why I decided to be a lawyer. Actually, is anybody in here from Houston? I hope not. Good. The reason I went to law school was they wanted to promote me, which meant moving to Houston. And so I wasn't doing that. So I went to law school. What I will tell you is that I learned back then the importance of understanding context. And context is something that is so important to innovation. You know, we can be brilliant. We can be great at designing things. We can be wonderful, you know, solo practitioners. But if we don't understand the context in which we're working, and if we're not open to rethinking our hypotheses, if we're not open to collaborating across functions and disciplines, we're never going to be able to keep up with the pace of change that we're dealing with now. I'll tell you that in that job, I was responsible for service stations from Route 80 to Cape May. I had a, I don't know, $6 million budget, something like that. And I had to find my way around a state that I thought ended at about the Raritan River with maps, kids, maps. No Google Maps, maps, which I still miss. So when we talk about, I'm going to get the clicker so I can, there we go. When we talk about innovation and when we talk about the future workforce and engaging the talent that we need to address the kinds of challenges you're addressing, we need people who can understand context. We need people who can understand the importance of collaboration across disciplines. But most importantly, we need to engage them so they stay. So let's talk about what it takes to bring all of that together pretty quickly, because right now we're dealing with so much. You know, I look at your mission, which actually is quite inspiring. And I think, like, no one should ever say, no, I don't want to work there, because there are so many wonderful things you can be doing. I'm going to touch on a few different topics. First, you know, how do we attract that talent? And then a little bit about neuroscience, because I think you'll understand in a minute why I'm going to talk about that. And then third, how do we develop high-performing teams? Because really, everything we do now happens in teams. There's very little we can design on our own. You know, my first lawyer job at AT&T when I was an environmental lawyer, I was always amazed how Bell Laboratories had these like mazes of hallways of all these solo contributors. And, you know, they could make their way in 30 or 40 years all the way up the ladder, and they'd be considered distinguished members of technical staff. And you could like walk down the hall and be like, cubbyhole, cubbyhole, cubbyhole. And they'd all be in front of their computers, and they'd all be alone doing whatever they were doing. It doesn't look like that anymore. That's not how we design things anymore. So we really have to talk about teams and how to be effective in teams. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do, and here's Mentimeter that Dave was telling you about. The first thing I'd like you to do is turn your phone back on. I'm sure you didn't, because you were just told to mute it. But if you would just use that QR code or go to menti.com and use the code that's up there, you should see a question that says, how are you feeling today? So this is something that I actually do every time I start a class or a workshop or a talk. I'd like to know how you're feeling physically, intellectually, and emotionally. We call it sharing some pie in my team. Whoops, sorry. I gotta do it this way. All right, so. Mentimeter, by the way, will allow you to embed your results right in the slide deck. It's a Microsoft add-in, which, of course, didn't work on this laptop. Oh, I should go to present. Thank you. So here's how you are all feeling today. So you know how word clouds work, right? So the word in the middle, the big word, is the one that more people have selected. So you're feeling good. I'm glad to hear that. Tired, strong, happy. Tired, by the way. I've been talking a lot about burnout with professionals, compliance professionals, legal professionals. Usually when I'm doing that talk, I don't even have to turn around to see the big word in the middle is either tired, exhausted, or drained. So if you are one of those people who chose tired, know that you're not alone. It's out there. I think it's an epidemic across most professions. So the reason I'm asking this is because emotional culture underlies everything that we do in teams. So I'm going to let that keep going. We can come back to it. Oh, and I'm happy to share my slides and the Menti results. So you'll see my email at the end. Feel free to ask me about that. Let's go back to the deck. There we go. Oh, I'm left-handed, so minimize. There we are. Okay. So why am I asking about emotions? Back in the 80s, we of course did not bring our emotions to work, particularly if we were women. It was, you left your emotions in the car in the parking lot. Because so much of what we were dealing with back then, and maybe still today, for women, for people of color, is the emotional tax of wondering if people are taking you seriously, wondering if you're gonna come off knowing what you're doing. Emotions are a huge part of what's going on in our body every day. And in fact, this ancient wisdom about the rider and the elephant, Jonathan Haidt wrote about it in his book, The Happiness Hypothesis. Jonathan Haidt, by the way, is the one who wrote the book about kids being distracted by screen time, the anxious generation. He's a social psychologist who teaches at NYU in ethical leadership. The idea is that the rider is our frontal lobe, is our thinking brain. And the elephant is our emotional self. So if you think about it, that rider is not going to get where the rider needs to go on this elephant without understanding what the elephant needs, right? Because the elephant is, 50 times, maybe more, 500 times heavier, bigger than the rider. So the idea is, if we don't understand what's going on inside ourselves emotionally, we're not going to be able to use our full frontal lobe to do whatever it is we're trying to do, because our emotions are going to take over. This is why we make reactive snap decisions sometimes. This is why when we're feeling exhausted, we can't fully think. That's why napping is good, by the way. I wish I had known that before I was like 60. And then that third thing here, that third bullet point, is a statement I really love from this psychologist. We're not thinking machines that sometimes feel. We're feeling machines that have to try to think. So when it comes to leaving your emotions at the door, you can try to do that, but they're there. And if you manage people, it's important to understand that their emotional self, their elephant, is in the room. So keep that in mind. How do we attract the talent that we need, that the commissioner was talking about? How do we attract that talent and hold on to them? This is a really important question. Dr. Siegel Barstead, who was a psychologist who taught at Wharton, did a lot of work, I would say about 10 years ago, wrote a lot about this concept of emotional culture. And her research showed that the emotions of your team, of the individuals on your team, will impact all of these things. So if what we want are people who feel connected to mission, people who can perform, innovate, and people who will come to work and stay there, we need to understand their emotional self. I really love using Gallup's research when it comes to culture. They are, as some of you probably know, they're probably one of the preeminent sources for culture data, employee perception data, and they do all kinds of surveying. But I thought that this data, this most recent data in there, they do a state of the global workplace report every year. So you can go to their website, gallup.com, and download that. They have tons of research. But this research, I thought, was really interesting. You think that people maybe are leaving because they're not making enough money. Somebody offers them more money. What was interesting, so there are, I don't know, over 200,000 people in this survey. The reasons employees left last year, 68% were a combination of they didn't feel engaged or that they belonged in that culture, and they didn't feel that they could be well, that they could find what they call work-life balance, which I think is a misnomer because it's not a seesaw. It's more like equilibrium. But look at that, 68%, when only 16% were leaving because of compensation and benefits. So, you know, when it comes to engaging, attracting and engaging the talent that you need, I would say focus on mission, focus on your culture, and not so much on pay and benefits. I have 3 millennial daughters. One is an organic farmer out in California. The other 2 went corporate. And both of them, they're twins, 33. Both of them changed jobs. One changed twice, one 3 times in their 20s because they weren't learning. That I thought was really kind of amazing. You know, that's about the culture. That's about engagement. And, you know, they were making plenty of money. They were, I think in one case, they were offered more money. But these were lateral moves. So not exactly empirical data, but ask a millennial, you know, why they changed jobs. This point, 42% of those surveyed said that their manager or their employer could have changed their mind, could have done something to keep them. Let's explore what that means. You know, when it comes to employee retention and turnover, sometimes when I talk about engagement, I have to go right to the bottom line thing, right? So the bottom line about turnover is it is expensive to replace people who leave. You know, here's the estimates, right? So if it costs money to replace people, then how many people are looking to leave is a really important data point. And we are now at the highest interest in changing jobs in 10 years. So, and that's a global number, that's not just in the US. So why is that? Why are people disengaged? Why are people feeling that they need to leave? Gallup will tell you that people who are highly engaged are emotionally connected, especially connected to the mission. They feel like what they're doing matters. So let's look at who you think, like I'll tell you, my best boss, I already said this, my best boss was my Exxon boss. I was 22 years old, a nervous wreck, didn't know what I was doing. He put me in a delivery truck with a driver the second day of my job so that I would have context, right? And then gave me a sense that I was capable of solving problems, learning on the job. You know, that was a really important sort of mentor and coach to have in a first job. I've had some wonderful bosses over the last 40 years. I've also had some absolutely horrible, and I would use the word toxic. I would use the word narcissistic, although that has taken on a whole new meaning. I've had some bosses who really like ruined me for a while. So when you think about the best boss that you ever had, how did they make you feel? That's what I would like to hear from you. Yeah. Oh, it's stuck? Okay. So we gotta go here. I gotta go back to here. Oh, did we close Menti? No. So we gotta go here. And we gotta go here. All right. Working now? Okay. Okay. By the way, engineers and scientists, Mentimeter is one of the easiest figure it out for yourself platforms I've ever played with. I'm sure you like doing that. I mean, I love reading directions, like when I'm putting things together, but this, if you want to play with this, there are so many things you can do with the free version of this. I highly recommend it, especially those of you who are teaching. It's a great way to engage your students when you're doing workshops. For those of you who are consultants, it's a great way to get people talking. It's anonymous, right? So you can get people talking. When I teach virtually, it's a way I get people to be part of the conversation. So look at these great words, right? This is how your best boss made you feel. Imagine if all of us could have a boss like this somewhere, hopefully early, but somewhere in our careers, right? And then the mentee I'm not going to do, because we don't have enough time, is think about the worst boss you ever had and how they made you feel and what these words would look like. It's kind of, you don't want to go to work, right? You're certainly not going to feel comfortable sharing new ideas with a boss who makes you feel less than. So when you look at these words, for those of you who are managing other people, every day, if somebody feels like one of these things, you've done something really important, really powerful. Okay, so, sorry I'm jumping back and forth. I'm sorry, it's a little annoying. Okay, let's see, PowerPoint.
Right there at the bottom.
Oh, not that one, this one. Thank you, Jessica. All right, so we did that. So, what would that word cloud look like was what I kind of wanted you to reflect on. One of the things that Gallup does, and they've been doing for over 30 years, is they have created this framework for managing people that includes an assessment. You can do a culture assessment, an employee, if any of you have ever done an employee engagement survey or employee satisfaction surveys, what we used to call it back in the 90s, they probably are based on this. And the reason I put it here is because I want you to look at the questions that they ask. These are, statements that are in their assessment. And the idea is to use the 5 scale from, strongly disagree to strongly agree. And the highest engaged employees will have lots of strongly agrees on these statements. The one that I put, I bolded some of them because they're quite relevant to the things we're talking about today. But the one that I put in green is because I wanted to talk about your mission today. Because imagine trying to work for, a for-profit company owned by venture capitalists who only care about the bottom line. Like, what's the mission? They can write a mission that might sound good, but the mission, in many cases, is, are we making more money, right? Are we making double-digit growth? It's really hard, especially if you're 22. It's really hard to connect to a mission like that. But a mission like yours should be easy. And I wanted to share this with you too. The highest engaged employees compared to the lowest, top quartile, bottom quartile. Look at the differences in absenteeism, well-being, turnover, right? It's kind of amazing. Safety and quality, look at those numbers. 63% difference. When you have engaged employees, you have far less safety incidents. I've worked in so many oil and gas and chemical companies where safety first was one of our values, just like it's one of yours. And we talked about safety data every month. And we talked about creating a safety culture. A safety culture is about making sure that we're taking care of each other, not just ourselves. And I have used that concept, the idea that, if I went out on a job site or I went into a clean room without my PP, my goggles or my hat, my hard hat or my steel-toed shoes, wherever I am. If somebody said to me, Debbie, where are your goggles? I wouldn't say something, some expletive. I would say, oh, Jessica, thank you. I don't know where my head is today, right? That's what safety culture is about. Friends don't let friends do unsafe things. Friends don't let friends drive drunk. That's a safety culture, right? Why can't we do that with well-being generally? Because if we have wellness in our workplace, we're going to have far more productivity, creativity, and innovation, right? So I love that engaged employees can show you it can make a safer workplace. Here's your mission. I honestly, if I were 22, no, because that was a really great job. If when I left at 25 because I didn't want to go to Houston, if somebody wanted to hire me into this mission, I'd have gone in a heartbeat. And frankly, I think that if you're remembering to connect to this mission with the people on your team, really nobody should be bored. I think there's a lot to do. So pick something if you're wondering how you're going to attract a new employee, and talk about how you do any of these things. I would imagine it's going to be like a magnet. And then your values. Values are the other thing. You heard Dave talk about, and I work a lot with values. If your values are real, if people feel like you live the values, like the senior leaders believe in the values, they're going to feel really proud to be part of this organization. And when I see integrity there, that, to me, that means an awful lot. We have professional codes of ethics, both as engineers and as lawyers. And integrity means doing the right thing even when it's hard. Even when there might be somebody who shoots you down for it, you do the right thing. And so to have that as a value is a really important magnet also. If somebody is interviewed and starts talking to people in the organization about your mission and values, you want them to be real. You want them to feel like that's really how we do things here. So belonging, feeling connected to the mission and the values, is very important to engagement. When people feel that they belong, so look at this data, right? When people feel that their opinion matters, that they can share ideas, that they're supporting the mission. Right now, the sort of the average is 3 in 10 in the Gallup data. 3 in 10 employees feel connected, feel that their opinion matters. Gallup has calculated these differences if you could double that. That's why those engaged employees have less turnover, less safety incidents. I wanted to point out this other statement about being psychological owners. It means that connecting to the mission is something that makes people feel proud, right? When we're a psychological owner, we take responsibility, we take accountability. And when you have that on a team, you can trust each other to maybe push back or to remind each other when we're not sticking with the mission or when we're getting outside the scope of work. That's a very important part of collaborative teamwork. So the neuroscience, so the emotional thing that I asked you about in the beginning is partly because of the emotional culture work I mentioned, but it's also because when we want to have emotional regulation, right? When we want to say, oh, I'm so frustrated, or I'm so angry, or I'm so nervous about this presentation, or whatever you're feeling, if you can name it. So Susan David, who's a great psychologist, follow her on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, she's always got great nuggets. She wrote a book called Emotional Agility. The idea is if you can name it and then accept it, and then make a choice about what that feeling is trying to tell you, then you can make a rational decision. You can get back to using this part of your brain about how you're going to deal with whatever it is that's frustrating you or angering you or whatever. Viktor Frankl's quote, I'm sure you've heard this, right? The space between stimulus and response is where we can make choices about not being reactive, but being responsive. And so in our interactions with each other, when we're frustrated or when we feel like somebody's not hearing us and we want to snap back at someone, if we just take a breath and say, why am I feeling this way? Is there a different way that I could respond that might move us forward instead of getting us stuck in some sort of, lock? I thought you'd appreciate this. Brene Brown, who I happen to like, not everybody loves her, I happen to love her. Brene Brown is a psychologist who's done a lot of research, and when she talks about this quote, she puts it in this formula, right? Stimulus, 2 parentheses, response. And so what she says is this space is about sticking your foot in there between those 2 parentheses and making enough space so that you're responding and not reacting. I really love that. So what are the benefits of emotional agility? There's so much more that we can do individually and as managers when we can do what Susan David says. She says, name it to tame it, right? Name what we're feeling. Maybe also ask other people how they're feeling, like I did with you. And if somebody in your team says they're tired, frustrated, feeling unsupported, that's a challenging thing to say, but you want to ask why that is, right? Or maybe you don't want to do it in the meeting. Maybe you want to say, wow, I'm really sorry you're feeling that way. Let's talk after the meeting, and if there's something I can do to help, let's talk about it, right? It's not an easy place to be because it's vulnerable, but if you as the manager can be a little vulnerable first, you know, I'm tired too. Let's talk about what we're doing and how we could maybe set some better boundaries so that we're both getting more rest. When a manager does that, it's easier for everybody else to do it. Let's talk a little bit about psychological safety. We don't always use it the way it should be used. Psychological safety is not about being comfortable. It's about feeling safe to share things that you might feel are threatening. So every time we walk into a room or we meet somebody new or whatever it is, we automatically do a threat assessment, right? So I walk into a lecture hall like this, and all of my old stuff about college and law school and teaching, and it's all there, right? Is this going to be a threatening environment, or is this going to be an environment where I can perform and bring my whole self to performing? So that psychological safety comes from faces. It comes from knowing who you were before I got here, right? But it all happens automatically. When we feel unsafe, we go into the fight, flight, freeze, right? When we feel safe, we can perform, we can create, we can innovate. So there are 2 books. So this is going to be like book club now for the rest of this talk. There are, and I'm a terrible reader, by the way. Don't ask me how I got through law school. It's amazing to me. Audible was the best invention in the world. These 2 people, Amy Edmondson and Tim Clark, are the sort of more contemporary people. People have been talking about psychological safety in psychology for 40 or 50 years. These 2 have written these 2 books that have become sort of the center of the discussion about how we create it in teams. So the fearless organization is Amy Edmondson, the idea that you want people to flag issues. Tim Clark will tell you it's about rewarded vulnerability and that it's not expensive to be yourself. So I've got in the slides, and as I said, I'm happy to share these. I've got in the slides some of his work about the 4 stages of psychological safety. You have to feel that you can belong before you can learn, make mistakes, contribute ideas, innovate, and challenge the status quo. That's what his challenger safety is about. There are examples of breaches. It's not just you said something and got fired. It can be somebody stepped on you in a meeting. That feels psychologically unsafe. There are lots of different breaches. There are also costs of breaches that he has calculated, and others. There's SHRM research, there's McKinsey research, about the things that happen when people don't feel psychologically safe. So the one at the bottom, they left their job because of uncivil treatment. That does happen. It's a small number, but look at 78% said their commitment to the organization declined. So if you have people who feel connected to your mission, but they feel that they aren't safe to speak up about better ways of doing things, you're going to lose them. They're not going to participate. This is something I could talk for 3 hours about, because in the compliance and ethics world, one of the things that we work very hard to do is create an environment where people will raise issues about wrongdoing, right? Ethical and legal wrongdoing. What I've learned over the years is you can't just start there. People have to feel safe to do other things. I find the leaders in organizations who've created that innovative, creative space for their team, and they're the ones who become my first champions for speaking up about wrongdoing. Because it's only about a half a step farther. In fact, I've told Tim Clark, you really need like a step 4.5, because when it comes to talking about wrongdoing, that's not necessarily challenging the status quo. That's challenging bad behavior, and that's much harder. So here's another one. This is an oldie, but a goodie. Warren Bennis was one of the sort of the grandfathers of ethical leadership. And he and this team wrote this. It's a small book about transparency. But I thought you'd appreciate that this idea that information flow is the nervous system, right? If we hoard information, if we don't share, if we don't work across disciplines, we're not going to be able to get to the bottom of things. We have to be able to share information. And this is an article I wrote for Harvard Business Review. Again, looking at the value, the strategic value of psychological safety helps you get managers on board. You know, I think in the interest of time, what do we have, like 5 minutes, right? 8? Okay. This is something that I would love to ask you about, because this is something that we sometimes have a perception that's off. So when you think about your organization, whether it's your team or your department, whatever, your firm, when somebody speaks up with an idea or concern, you know, how often does that happen? And when they do, are people listening, actively listening? So do I have to, has it gone to the next question? Okay. That's that one. Okay. So this is a slider. So 0 is no one speaks up, 10 is everyone speaks up. 0 is everyone listens, no one listens, 10 is everyone listens. This is something I've done in factories with the plant manager in the room, who I've prepped. And I actually do it by asking people to come up and stand on a number line. So like I'm standing on 5, and that's 0, and that's 10, and I have the managers come up first. And then you can imagine, managers think everyone's speaking up, they're all over here, right? And then everyone in the audience is giggling, and they kind of wonder why. And then I say, why are you standing there? And why are you giggling? And then the next question is actively listening. And so because they've heard the giggling, they kind of move this way. But nobody's lower than maybe 4.5. And then they sit down, and I ask their people to come up, and it's a very different answer. And so then we can talk about why that is and how we can fix it, right? So here's where you are. Shocking, right around 5. You know, if we did a culture assessment and asked people this question, there would be a range of answers, and there would be a range of reasons. And it's because managers all over the organization are behaving differently. So what I'm seeing here is managers are a little bit better at creating a speaking up environment than the average. The average is, in my experience, is like 3.5 or 4. Okay, so we're probably not going to have time to do this, but I'd like you to think about collaboration. Yeah, go right ahead and do this one. One of the things that I wanted to talk about with collaboration is the idea of, we now have 4 or 5 generations in the workplace, right? So let me jump ahead to that, because I think this is an important piece. There we go. This is an important piece of thinking collaboratively. There's a book here, by the way. If anybody hasn't read it, please read it. It's, you know, it'll take you 2 hours. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and he talks about trust being the foundation for cohesive teams. And he writes in fable style. He writes so that you could read it on a plane. Small, but like 5 by 7. It's about a ½ an inch thick. But this goes back to vulnerability that I was talking about before, and psychological safety. The idea is, if you can trust, you can debate respectfully, and then you can commit together to row the boat in the same direction, and that's how we get to results. We hold each other accountable. Okay, so generations. So I wanted to see who's here, because for the first time, I guess it was late 2023, Gen Z has now has surpassed baby boomers in the workplace in the US. This is Department of Labor stuff, okay? So I've had to change my multi-generational talk a little bit, but the traditional list, so like my dad, my 93-year-old dad would be part of that 1%, but millennials and Gen Xers are running everything. And the rest of us, the boomers and the Gen Zers, are in the workplace. Many baby boomers are still in management and leadership, And so we have all these different generations that have to communicate and collaborate. So I want to see where you are, and then we can wrap up. All right, there we are. All right. Yay, baby boomers are still here. All right, so look, this is exactly what Department of Labor was saying, right? So how do we communicate differently? And what I would hope you'll consider is that the stereotypes about how we communicate are not necessarily correct. So like, I can text. My children, who are millennials, love to text with me. I don't love it. They are very quick. I'm answering you, and then you text, but I'm answering, right? And so I say, can we get on FaceTime? Nobody responds, right? And then I go back to the one who started the conversation, and I dial her phone. She is texting, and she does not pick up. You have the freaking phone in your hand. Answer me, right? So put that in the workplace. So how do we deal with that, right? How do we deal with that? My generation had to get used to email. We love email. And email is a great way to save everything. And so if you're dealing with a baby boomer, it's probably better to talk to them in person. But if you don't want to do that, email them. And actually, a lot of my Gen Xers like email also. The great thing about email is, go back to Susan David, stimulus, response, right? You can decide what you're going to say, and when you're on the phone or in person, you don't always get your foot in that parentheses, right? So I would ask that you consider how to communicate with the generations that are on your team. All right, so to wrap up, here's where I want to go. There are a couple other books here that I will recommend. This one, which is, don't think that you have more in common with your generation than other generations, because we all lived through a lot of things together. That's period effects like COVID. Life cycle effects. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma. I might have more in common with a Gen Xer than with baby boomers who never had kids or don't have grandchildren, right? So just focusing on what they call cohort effects is not fair. And then, all right, can I just do this quickly? Okay, thank you. So does everybody know about this Tacoma Narrows Bridge, 1940, Galloping Gertie? It was like doing this, right? It collapsed 4 months after it was built. And we knew how to make suspension bridges. We had really good suspension bridges. There's one in Brooklyn, right? They did not consider the context of the wind in the Puget Sound going from, vertical lift to torsion, and they changed the suspensions to flat bars. So there was, torsion as opposed to flexibility that would give it stability. So what did we learn? We learned that context was important. They also apparently did not consult an engineer who knew what they were doing. This one over here is my generational example. How many of you have a push button start in your car? Okay. How many of you remember when you had to use a key, right? So at some point, the keyhole lit up. Wasn't that great? So why did we go from that to this? Mercedes had some old person on the team who said, I'm having trouble finding the keyhole. They may not have been the ones who lit it up. I'm thinking it was an American. But that person was the one who said, why do we need a key? Can't we have a push button? Because it'll be so much easier. If that had been a bunch of millennials or Gen Zers, they might never have put a push button start in that car, right? But now everybody has push button starts in the car. That's a cross-functional, cross-disciplinary, multi-generational team. Okay, So that's the other book. Perennials is about who cares what our generations are. Miscommunication leads to problems. And if we want to have, sorry, another HBR article. If we want to have solutions that really work, we have to be willing to challenge our own assumptions. We have to clean off the windows that are our assumptions. And so this book is a must-read. He talks about thinking like a scientist. Has anybody read this book? Adam Grant is a great organizational psychologist, and I wanted to end with, he puts us on a pedestal. If you can think like a scientist or an engineer, it's because we're trained to challenge our own assumptions. And he talks about preachers, politicians, and prosecutors as sort of archetypes. Preachers will tell you how it has to be, and they don't really care what you have to say. Politicians will go along with you, whatever you're saying, and prosecutors will challenge everything you say. But if you think like a scientist, you'll be able to innovate because you'll have the humility to try new things. So that's where I wanted to end. Think about how you can bring these kinds of critical thinking skills, emotional agility, psychological safety, and multi-generational collaboration into your work. I think it will attract and retain the talent you're looking for. Okay. One of my favorites. So, sorry we don't have time for questions because I told you too many stories, but I'll be here today. I'm happy to chat. I know we have a break now, right? A little break. And if you want these slides or the mentees, I'll be happy to send those to you. My email is here. There. And connect with me on LinkedIn. I really would love to do that. If you're not on LinkedIn, young people, get on LinkedIn. Old people, get on LinkedIn. This is how we learn. This is how we make connections. All right, thanks very much. Sorry, I went over. Thank you. Thank you. We'll talk about burnout.
Give me 1 second, everybody.
Hang on.
All right, thank you, Debbie. That was outstanding. I think we all appreciated that. I certainly did. That can be used in your personal and professional life, in my opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to take about 11-minute break. Please visit the research poster exhibits located downstairs in rooms 116 and 117. Thank you very much. Be back at 10:45. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, great. She was great. Really good. Thank you. Good seeing you, sir. Our next segment will be a panel discussion on how are New Jersey transportation agencies preparing the workforce for the future. I will be the moderator for the panel. Each panelist will be introduced and will speak briefly about how their respective agencies, organizations are preparing the workforce to meet the challenges of the future. Once they have all addressed preparing the workforce for the future within their area of responsibility, I will ask the panel group a series of workforce development questions followed by your questions. We're going to get to your questions. We're going to really try, time permitting. Our first panelist to speak is Anthony Ennas, who is the Senior Director of Statewide Operations for the New Jersey Department of Transportation. As Senior Director, he oversees all 3 regions in the state, as well as being responsible for the Bureau of Equipment and the Operations Training Unit, which I like. Anthony's achievements include managing high-level emergencies such as the Route 80 sinkhole in Wharton, which we're all familiar with, that happened recently, post-Hurricane Sandy cleanup coordination, and most recently, the development of the new DOT training center, establishing many in-house training programs, resulting in cost savings for the department. Let's give a warm welcome to Senior Director of Operations, Anthony Ennas.
Good morning, everybody. Those of you who see me up here are probably just as in shock as my name is on the brochure here, because usually you see me, I'm on an emergency or I'm going crazy. So just a couple things about me. I've been with the department almost 30 years. March will be 30 years. I'm very passionate about my job here at DOT. I've been since I started as a maintenance worker, and everyone here that knows me knows that. I'm a matter-of-fact decision maker. Sometimes I'll say something that you probably won't like, but it'll be pretty accurate. I don't beat around the bush. Things that you don't know is, I'm speaking in front of people is not one of my things. I'm usually on the highway. So just bear with me. Last time I spoke in front of a podium, this is my second time in almost 30 years. Those who were there know during a service awards. So those who know, and I'll leave it at that. All right? So one of my responsibilities is the Operations Training Unit. About 10 years ago, in 2015, it was a thought of, we're finding out through like HR and guys are getting hurt through safety that, we got to have a better training plan for our guys. So we created the Operations Training Unit, which was to get everyone kind of level set through the organization in operations, like the field staff, not the engineering staff. This is strictly the field staff. And we started growing with the program. We were working out of trailers, and then we found this facility in Bordentown. And I know most of you guys have been there. It's beautiful. It wasn't cheap, and it is now the DOT Training Center, right? CPM's got some great programs going through there. Operations training units in there. We collaborated with DMV for our CDL training. We also have CSC training going on there, or CSC testing going on at the center as well. Here we go. We run our own CDL program. We have we run our pesticide program through there. We have advanced classes for our guys, right? So I'm going backwards, right? So 2 years ago is when it was built and functional. So for 8 years, we were just working out of trailers all over the state, beg, borrow, and stealing equipment from yards. Now, through time and vision, the training center has their own equipment to do hands-on training with our guys. And the Bureau of Safety loves it. So we're catching all aspects of our training. Now, the reason we're here, right? Technology. Anyone that knows me in here knows I'm the least tech person around, right? Mr. Oza can vouch for that. So everything starts with an idea, right? Or a problem. So as a manager or an employee, it all starts with that problem, right? Like, how do we fix this? Even in my personal life, everyone's like, oh, mister, how to make everything better. That's what they call me. So I just always throw things out there. My assistant commissioner sometimes says, you know, he throws out 5 ideas, 3 might get him locked up, so like he only goes with a couple of them. So I had this vision, and I realized there was a problem. So a lot of DOT people in here, right? Show of hands. How many people try to get a car from Motor Pool? How many people had issues with the cars from Motor Pool? Right? So the Motor Pool was a problem, right? Oh boy, what did I do? Here we go, touching stuff. So the Motor Pool was a problem that, you know, I used to speak with the Bureau of Equipment all the time, like, we gotta fix this, something's wrong. So I was at a conference out west, and I started Googling stuff, like how you know, is there automation to a Motor Pool process? So out at this conference, I saw that Colorado and Texas both implemented this automated Motor Pool system. It's like a reservation system. And that reservation system, it helps on a couple of things, right? The DOT is shorthanded in mechanics. Maintenance costs of the vehicles are gone up. And a lot of these vehicles that we have, whether it's in the centralized motor pool or in the little mini motor pools throughout the department, there's probably like 10 different units that have their own little mini motor pool. No one's monitoring the maintenance of it. But we don't have the mechanics to fix everything. And the cost is through the roof for that type of work. So, you know, I dove into this. I found a staff member. He was a young analyst. He was a trainee, and he got brought in when the department brought in a bunch of trainees. And I empowered him to work with me, and I supported him to bring this to the forefront where we are today. And this kid, just like everyone was saying before me, I empowered him, and the shine on his face, because he didn't know where he fit in operations. Was he the winter guy? Was he the litter guy? Was he the inmate guy, like the inmate litter guy? And he wasn't. He was a guy that had drive. So he kind of reminded me of myself. And I tasked him with reaching out to these companies. Like, how can we bring this into New Jersey? So in Colorado, out west, when I met with Colorado and Texas, I asked them if it'd be okay if we contacted them. So we contacted them. The Bureau of Equipment got on a call. We did a Teams call, and we started asking a lot of questions. And they were answering them. How'd your implementation go? What was the biggest problems? So we were like problem solving for the future, right? So this was 2 years ago we started this. And here we are today. You got to remember, when you have that problem, it takes a long time, right? It's the bureaucracy gets in the way, right? No one says that, but we all know where we work, right? It's state government. You can have an idea today. It might take 10 years to get it running full steam. And like I'll go back. Training, 2015. Building, finally built, 2023. And here we are today running all kinds of programs out through the facility. So this was that idea that I had, right? So it improves fleet management, allows DOT to focus on tasks, right? And certain tasks, oh boy. So certain tasks, these little groups that have their mini motor pools, a lot of those people running that are the admins, right? Should the admin be running a motor pool and know when the car needs to be maintained or who had it last? You know, they do everyone has their own little way of doing it, and this will centralize it. We're starting off at one location in Trenton, in the main building. You're gonna have 24-hour access, and it's gonna work out when it gets implemented, right? So it's a pilot, and then eventually we're gonna try to get it up at Mount Arlington, down in Cherry Hill, and maybe even some maintenance garages. So this system will allow anyone at any time, 24/7, to have access to a vehicle. And it's all done by reservation. So if someone leaves that car dirty, you would ask, how many people got in the car? There's no gas, right? So we're gonna know if the person put gas in it. We're gonna know how many miles. With Samsara, we know if you put your seatbelt on or your window went down. So they're gonna have much more control over the fleet. And this young man that put this together, and he's a young man, now we're going back to the staffing levels, right? The 3 people in the Bureau of Equipment all have over 20 years, 25 years. When we brought this up to them, even their manager, everyone was hesitant. And I had to be that salesman, right? You have to be a salesman when you have that idea. So I had an opportunity one day, my assistant commissioner couldn't make it, and I brought this presentation to senior leadership. And so I'm selling it. I'm selling it. I'm on my rhythm, and they're like, we like it. It's a good idea. And then that's when we went full force to get this done. So it's, you have to, you know, like the slides before from Debra, right? You have to empower and you have to support your staff. In my career here, since I've gotten into management and prior to that as an engineer, I've always been supported and I've always been empowered to be creative and do things, right? That's why I'm the guy on an emergency, because I'm just thinking like how to get something done and how to make it quicker and better and more efficient for the motoring public. So this is gonna be a better system for everyone at DOT. And this same young man, I'm gonna get into a different one. So the buy-in for the senior staff was like, they were hesitant, right? So we found out NJ Transit was installing this. So we set up a field trip with that staff, and we went up to NJ Transit, and NJ Transit's walking through how it works, the process. And we got back to DOT, and I know Melissa could vouch for it. Everyone was smiling. Everyone's like, I really think this is gonna work. But it was a struggle in the beginning to get their buy-in, right? And buy-in's very important when you got a problem. I'll touch on one other thing right here. So another issue, another problem we have is our warehouses. There's 4 warehouses in general. There's 3 in the regions, 1 in each region. And Grainger reached out to us, and we did a visit at Grainger. Anyone knows Grainger? Their warehouse is similarly set up to Amazon. Everything scan in, scan out, different bins, all kinds of stuff. So we were able to collaborate with Grainger, and as you can see on the slide, these are our 3 regions. We got this design for free from them, which would cost us normally about $12,000 to get a design from them. So these are bins like you would see at Amazon, like when you're watching it, like a video of Amazon and how it works. And our guys are gonna be able to scan in and scan out. So same young gentleman, empowered him to do this, and now he's just like, he's definitely a happy operations employee and has his space. And I think I'm gonna wrap up. All right, that's it for me. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Director Ennas. Take it from me, I've been doing training for a long time in different facilities and with the DOT for 12 years, and that new facility they have is phenomenal. Definitely raises the credibility and the professionalism of the DOT. So it was a great project for sure. Our second panelist is Rebecca Savelli, Human Resources Manager 2 for the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Prior to her current position, Rebecca honed her skills at the Civil Service Commission, where she worked from 2016 to 2023. Her tenure there equipped her with a deep understanding of public sector HR practices, which she now applies to drive effective human resource management and strategic initiatives at the DOT. Let's give a warm welcome to Rebecca Savelli.
Awesome. Hello. So as he said, I'm Rebecca Savelli. I am filling in here today for Kelly Hutchinson, who was not able to be here. Kelly is a little more funny and a little more dynamic than I am, but I'm going to do the best that I can. Let me see if I can. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how we're going to get our workforce to the future. So recruitment. It's the first way we're going to get our people. We can't plan for the future if we're not planning to bring new people in. So in recruitment, we do tons of career fairs. We partner with local colleges. We are doing everything we can to expand our reach to get the best people we can to the Department of Transportation. We started using Handshake, which I believe we started using because of transit. So through Handshake, we have found that we can contact students across the country. So just because you go to college in California, it doesn't mean that you may not be interested in coming to work for Department of Transportation here in New Jersey. Maybe you live here, maybe you have family here. So now we're able to contact students all over the country. So in that, we reach out to all of these colleges and get the students in. We recognize that we are a state agency. So what does that mean? We're slow. We're very, very slow. So we wanted to speed that up. So what we did was put into a new put in practice, contacting the candidates much faster than we did ever before. So from the time that they apply until they're getting contacted for an interview is hopefully maybe a week. Previously, it was maybe a month, 2 months, 6 months. So by contacting them, we're showing them that we're engaged. We're an actual employer. We're not just a black hole where your resume is going to go. Once you get that contact, you're getting scheduled for an interview. Your interview may not be, tomorrow or next week, but at least you have an interview scheduled. Once your interview's completed, we're going to get an offer out to you within a week or so. If you're not getting that offer, we're going to let you know so that there's a lot of transparency. So once we have the people here, they come, they onboard, we need to keep them. So that's going to bring us to employee engagement and employee culture. I put those, they're on separate things, but they go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. If your culture's terrible, no one's going to be engaged. If your culture's terrible, no one's going to be engaged. That's the end. So some people, when I came to DOT, everyone was like, it's family, it's a family. It is a family. A lot of people hate when people say that their work is like family. So you can call it whatever you want, but DOT is a community. So we have something for everyone. We try to foster that community by making sure that we are supporting our people. We have events, we have all kinds of things that allow people to come in and find what they like. We have book clubs, we have sports teams, the Coneheads, the bowling team, we have the Toastmasters. Then we do so many employee events to keep our team, the team engaged. Backyard Olympics. At what other agency can you go and dunk your senior leaders in a tank? We have Trunk or Treat. Where else can you go to see your senior leaders running around in blow-up costumes? We do everything we can to create that exciting environment. And when you're at these events, you're engaging with people you may not have ever met before. Once you meet them, then you can network with them, you can learn from them. Any conversation you have with any person is going to teach you something. You're going to learn where they work, what they do, who they are. You're also going to bridge the gaps. So Deb talked about bridging the generational gaps. When you make friends with people that you may not have made friends with outside, then you're going to feel more comfortable going to them when you have a problem. You're going to feel more comfortable trying to get that institutional knowledge that they may have. So by having our culture be good and be a community, we're able to allow for that engagement where people are excited to come to work and they want to help our organization grow. Excuse me. We also have tons and tons of heritage committees. We like to promote everyone staying engaged. The DOT pride is unparalleled to anywhere else. I don't know a single other state agency where they have a DOT store, the Pit Stop, shameless plug, where we have so much merchandise. Anywhere I go now, I see people wearing DOT merch. I had no idea how many people worked at Department of Transportation before I came here. Now I see them everywhere I go. So I'm going to move on to employee innovation. Keeping our employees engaged is going to help them to want to innovate. We can't move to the future if we're not being innovative. DOT offers so many programs to help us innovate. We have the PD program. Recently we started a leadership academy, which was quite amazing, recent graduate. We also have Build a Better Mousetrap, programs like this where we showcase our innovation and what we're doing to stay on the forefront. All of these things help us to bring people into DOT, to bring it back to that recruitment. We can't recruit people if we don't have the rest of these pieces. And that's all I have for you today.
Very nice, Rebecca. She got thrown in the fire last second, and I thought you did an outstanding job. Very good. That's right. Give her that's not easy. Maybe 2 days' notice if you're lucky, right? Hello. Our next panelist is Dr. Savita Lachman, Deputy Chief of Human Resources for New Jersey Transit. With a doctorate in organizational leadership management, Savita brings a data-driven, forward-thinking approach to workforce strategy, ensuring alignment between business objectives, employee engagement, and culture. As Deputy Chief Human Resources Officer at the NJ Transit, she leads enterprise-wide initiatives that drive organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and cultural transformation. She serves as a member of the Mercer County Community College Board. How do you think we got in here? And remains deeply committed to mentorship, workforce development, and lifelong learning. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Savita Lachman of New Jersey Transit. Your hands are full.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is really a pleasure for me to be here with all of you today. Esteemed pleasure, because I work so closely with Rutgers team as well as on the board with Mercer and our NJDOT team, Kelly in particular at NJDOT. So I do want to say, as Deputy Chief of Talent Management at New Jersey Transit, I am there 2.5 years now, and was extremely excited for this opportunity, because when I was told to come on board to start the talent management team, and with everything I've done in my dissertation at Drexel University, my doctorate is in organizational leadership effectiveness, and I was like excited because I managed the team of leadership development, our learning management strategy, our performance management, our internship team, our mentorship team, as well as our retention and succession planning team, and our employee engagement team. So together with that group, when I started, I was able to bring on board folks, and anyone gets to know our talent management team, we feel like a startup company, because we're always brainstorming on ideas, constantly going up to our CEO and SVPs for stakeholders' approval to move forward with initiatives. So it's a constant move on innovation and initiatives. We will talk to our IT team and said, what is it that you need from us? AI is coming, for example, and I'll get to that too. Let me move on with my slides. I will get to that because with the IT team, they were like, was February or January, they're like, we have a lot of IT team members, but they don't have certificate in AI. What can you do? We interact with different organizations like Rutgers, NJIT, and this one I think we did with NJIT. We said, listen, we need our IT members to be IT certified so they could actually bring more to the organization. So we put together a panel of generative AI. As you know, generative AI is different than AI. So different form of that, and get them certified. They come back, and the CIO said each one of these members will be tasked with a top project. So when they're finished with that project and it's successful, then we'll send another group. So we test each one of our environment before we continue with our trainings. So as you looked at how we automate and with the digitalization, our head of IT, our head of AI, or digital information, we always work with them with training. So one of the things we do for that engagement is we will look at all the different universities that carry different training and engage them. For example, Michigan State University is one of a kind training for transportation. So we engage, I know it's expensive, but we engage at least one employee from our rail department every year for Michigan State University. The program takes 18 months. They go to like 6 or 7 different agencies around the country to specifically learn. They kick it off in Colorado, they end it in New Jersey, but they kick it off at different agencies. And if you have someone in your retention succession planning as the next head of rail or the next person gonna move up, you really want them to see what's happening around the country. So to take them to that level of learning, it's important to see what's happening different than at New Jersey Transit, to bring that knowledge back. Also, I started the program called LEAD, L-E-A-D, started in 2017 by MTA. And after the pandemic, it died down. So we just kicked it off this year. LEAD program is really for When you look at, we always talk about leadership development for the middle managers, emerging managers, everyone else. But what about our CEOs? How do we prepare for the next level? So the LEAD program actually prepares these transit agency. Right now, we're doing 7 transit agency in the program, including Canada TTC, our only international. And within that program, we kicked it off in Chicago in June, and we were in Canada last month, and the next one will be MTA, and so forth. We have Connecticut, we have Boston, and then New Jersey will end in September of 2026. So that another one is an 18-month program. But what happened with that program, we get to have our 2 level down from our CEO. We chose 1 or 2 employees from each organization who joins, and they get to mingle and meet with CEOs from different agencies and learn what the challenges are. So they get to participate in challenging questions. How can they solve it? That is for our leaders, and that's ongoing. But on another front, I'm a continuous and a lifelong learner. So our culture now is continuous learning. We have brought on board, I implemented and launched our LMS system, which is Docebo. We have over 900 LMS e-learning courses, plus 35 additional courses that's built in-house. So, and we implement that within our orientation, which is a 3-day orientation project. We at New Jersey Transit believe in workforce planning, which is getting the right talent, retain them, and give them the skills. Within our retention program, we are looking at our critical positions. We have a high percentage that are eligible for retirement. So we have to have those transfer knowledge. So within that transfer knowledge, we are building our bench strength. We are looking at who is ready to take on the next position within 1 year, 2 years, or 3 to 5 years, and how can we upskill and grow them. Some employees, for example, if you look at the head of rail, we have 5 areas. We need somebody who can actually take on that position and know all 5. In order to get them to know all the areas, you need at least a full year or 2 to train someone. So we engage them within every different areas. We upskill them if they need a degree. We have a few people in management who needs to complete a degree. We get them connected with the university, so if it's 1 or 2 more courses, they can feel empowered. So one of the big takeaway I would say is our talent acquisition team work diligently to get those employees in the house, and our talent management team work on keeping them. By retention and growing them, that is how we're gonna move forward, and we work across the generation. We work on strengths, not weaknesses. That's how I focus my team to look at their strengths and how we could grow from that. And as an organization, I think if we keep that in mind, we could definitely collaborate, innovate with the data-driven environment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lachman. Our 4th and final panelist is Kristen Thomas, who is a senior manager within Deloitte's Consulting LLP. She's currently serves as Deloitte's Human Capital Leader for New Jersey and Massachusetts and serves as Deloitte's National HR Strategic Leader. She has served clients across state, local, and federal government, including local and state-level transportation entities. Kristen earned a Bachelor's of Science in Finance from Oakwood University and an MBA from George Washington University. Let's give a warm welcome to Senior Manager Kristen Thomas.
Thank you. All right. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everybody. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit, I'll say open the aperture a bit, talk about what we're seeing within our transportation and infrastructure agencies, but also across public sector in terms of trends related to the future of work. The content you'll see presented today is tied to our Future of Work Institute, where we do active research on what trends are happening as it relates to the changing aspects of the workforce, which every industry globally is impacted by today. So just to get us started here, if you all think about where the workforce was previously, we'll say like 15, 20 years ago, the path to progression was pretty much a straight line. You start, the example we have here from the mailroom to the CEO, but I think of Director Ennas, your story is like, kind of like this story, right? A direct path, and you keep growing and expanding until you reach the top. What we're seeing today is a lot of, we'll say, ebbs and flows. You start in one position, you may change to do something else, and that requires reskilling and examining where you want to focus later as you go over the course of your career. So I like for myself, an example, I'm a millennial. I have a lot of friends who've had, in the 15 years of working, they've had like 5 or 6 jobs, and they can all be like very different from each other. But I think that speaks to what we're seeing in terms of how career paths are changing. So just thinking a little about what these changes mean. Some statistics here that I think are interesting. One of my favorite ones is that 65% of children entering primary school today are going to have jobs that don't exist right now. So work is changing rapidly, and how jobs look today is completely different than they're going to look in like 20, 30 years. If you think about like skills-based hiring, which is a big one, and I think you talked a little bit about that, Savita. A lot of organizations are looking at how can we maybe remove educational requirements and hire based on a skills-based approach, so that we're hiring the right people and just thinking about what do they need to be successful, not just the qualifications as we look at them like in a standard way, or have we looked at them in the past. And then we've talked already, I think everybody so far today has talked about Gen AI. How does Gen AI impact the work that we're doing? And how is that done in an ethical way? And how is that done in a way that enables the workforce and is not viewed as something that is a replacement? Because that is not the intent, at least by and large for the most of us. So those are a few key statistics. But I always find like the one at the bottom, that one resonates with me quite a bit. And so as we look to the future, what does that mean for how we should be focused as leaders and as those who are workers? What skills are going to be relevant in the future of work? So your technical and functional skills won't go away, but they will change. And the priority given to these versus where you may have more technology enablement or more AI, that's in those 2 components, technical and functional. But thinking about what skills are going to be largely relevant in the future, those are those human skills. What competencies can a human bring that, we'll say, just a robot or artificial intelligence cannot bring? And that's how you and your employees will continue to differentiate yourselves in the future. So what do we mean by human skills? And I think this touches a little bit to what you were speaking about, even Deb, in your presentation. So empathy, emotional intelligence, having strong written and verbal communication, agility, resiliency, curiosity, critical thinking, problem solving, logical reasoning. All of these enable somebody to be, a good team member, able to bring a strong customer experience to those who are engaging with people, out in the field, for example. And to be able to apply creativity so you can encourage innovation of innovative thinking, let's say organization-wide. So all these are going to be the skills that remain at the crux of what differentiates a strong employee and somebody who's ready to adapt and change as jobs continue to change over time, to somebody who just may not thrive as much in the future with the changes that are coming. And this impacts, I'll say, every aspect. We'll say in transportation infrastructure a little bit differently. Like there's differences for those who are, we'll say, working in construction than for those who are working in administrative services. But those changes are coming, and we've talked a little bit about what those are today. And so then here, I'll say there's 3 key aspects. And I'll say for some of you who've studied future work, this is, I'll say, nothing that is different than what is, I'll say, industry standard. But there's 3 aspects to think about as leaders. And considering how things may change in the future and what you want to do to enable your employees for best success. So those components of future work are workforce. Who is doing the work? How do those workers come to you? Those can be your standard employees who are on the payroll. Those can be contractors, gig workers, people who come as needed and then leave when their time is up. What work is being done? So how does the work itself change? We've talked a little bit about that. How does AI influence the work that we do? How do we move to an outcome-based, move to focusing on outcomes versus tasks? And how does technology enable the work that we do? And then finally, the workplace, where work is being done. For some people, like this won't change very much, but for others, thinking about, during COVID, there was a big conversation about hybrid. What does that mean today versus what it meant 5 years ago? Those conversations are continuing to evolve over time. And what do you need to make sure, one, people feel like they're successful and part of an organization and have a team, but also have the flexibility they need so that they're not ultimately looking for another job, because I will say this is one reason why people often look, because they're missing out on some of the flexibility they may have gotten for a few years here. So just when we're defining what the future will look like, just keeping these three aspects in mind is going to be critical to your overall success. So I'll stop there, but looking forward to questions. Thanks, everybody. Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kristen, for that introduction. I am now going to ask the panel a series of workforce development questions. Question number 1. How can we ensure our workforce is prepared for and confident in ensuring emerging technologies like AI and other technologies? We'll start with Kristen.
Can you all hear me? Yes. So one thing I'll say is the way that I've seen this be successful is by helping your employees see the possibilities of how their work can be enabled with AI. And I'll give it like an example that's close to home. We have our own internal AI tool. And what we've seen, the struggle with adoption is really people just are like, well, this tool is great. What do I use it as, like the new Google? Like, how does it actually enable work? So providing like really detailed and specific use cases for how that can enable their job, and like doing that by, I'll say, by a profile of a type of job, I think can really help spur adoption, as long as they can see like the art of the possible, or what the capabilities truly are. So I'll say that's one way.
Kelly, any thoughts on that, or any? Or I'm sorry. She is Kelly today. Rebecca?
I think it's really just getting the buy-in from people, showing them the benefits of it and why it's going to be good for them. People hate change, so showing them why the change is going to be good.
Yeah, we all resist change, that's for sure, myself included. Anthony, anything you want to talk about?
It's, training first, right? Like you were saying about AI, right? Like your people are coming up and being like, oh, well, how do we, right? Because before you go to how do we, they should be trained first, right? So we don't realize that we lose time when we implement something and we're not training our people first. So I remember a story with site manager way back in the day. Site manager came out, everyone had to be trained. I got handed a booklet and said, train everyone in operations on site manager, how to pay a contractor. And that's not what has to happen now. And again, what Rebecca said, the buy-in is very important, that we're trying to make the job easier for our employees and more efficient than we're taking their job away.
Savita, AI. Prepared.
Yeah, I think it is really important that we get everybody on board with that. And at New Jersey Transit, we are in the process of rolling out the co-pilot, and some of us are testing it. I love it. I use it all the time. Most of us use ChatGPT also, which is extremely helpful in the environment we are. I mean, I would take days to put a strategy together, but with ChatGPT, it's just seconds. So sometimes even a presentation, doesn't matter. I mean, it could do everything for you, the PowerPoints, the Excel, everything. So even the presentation, you could just throw it in there and it spits back out to you like in a couple of minutes. Sometimes we just did the emotional intelligence training and the DIS training, which myself went and got certified to teach. I do get involved in it as deeply as possible with my team. And one of the things we throw the DIS training after, because we got the vendor slides, we throw it in the ChatGPT. It did said, and it was the first time, and it could have been because of the issue with AWS last week. It said it will take like a couple of hours, but it did spit back out a very detailed speaker notes and PowerPoints and everything. I was amazed at the amount of work. It did take a couple of hours. I'm thinking I will, and it gave you the percentage as it was working, but it was a huge presentation, so it did a good job even on something that large. But overarchingly, everything that we do, we try to integrate or I'm a facts person and so is my team, so we do more research and facts before we could present something. And all the tools out there are AI-based that helps you to get that fact. So I encourage our team to work on that.
Yeah, I put GTP on my phone, but I haven't used it yet. But I gave an award out in another conference, and I was looking at this write-up for the award, and I was like, my God, this is excellent. And I know the guy that wrote it up, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like him. Come to find out it was ChatGPT, and guess what? He got the award. So the AI does work, believe me. It worked with me anyway. What strategies can help us retain and utilize institutional knowledge of our workforce as automation increases? And this time I'm going to go with you, Savita.
Yes, we kicked off retention and succession planning to utilize the institutional knowledge. We have a large percentage of employees who are eligible for retirement. And from looking at that, we put the whole program together. We built it in-house at first. We're looking at our HCM system implementing Oracle HCM pretty soon, which will incorporate it. But retention succession planning really truly help you to get to know what are your critical roles in your organization and where are your bench strength. Because whatever happened, if those people walk out the door, what happened with 40 years of knowledge? So for that reason, we have it in place, and we have done it. We started last fall, piloted over the spring. We fully launched now in all of our departments. What we do, we take the individual with a critical role. We figure out what is their job, what is really needed. We update all of the job descriptions. What is really needed to get this job done? Then we looked at the people within the department if there's internally. Because first, if there's not an internal person to replace, then we have to think how we could prepare to hire from outside. So you passively will be hiring for that position. When we looked at the internal who are considered a key participant, we look at what their criteria are within their scope of their work, within their resume, within the job that they're doing, and how else, what is that gap will take them to do the next position that's critical. And we do a leadership development plan for each individual by the month on how many e-learnings you need to pre-set up you for the post and then the post. So if you have to go take some classes at some university or certificate courses, you are prepped pre and post also. So you come back and you tell us, okay, I did this certificate and now what I do next. We stay engaged, monthly check-in. My team monthly check-in with all these individuals. Today, we have at least 65 people who we have done the LDP for. And we also engage locally with all the other employees with a coaching program. We do IDP for those individuals. Those are individuals that has to be trained in the job that they're sitting in today. They want to be the best that they could be, so then they could apply for the next position. But those are the two. Kristen, want to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'll speak about this from the angle of like just pure knowledge management. In addition to focusing on the workforce side, I spend a lot of time helping back office HR transform and make sure that, you know, they have the best operational efficiencies and things in place. And part of that is, are your processes captured? And you'd be surprised how rare that often is. And so one recommendation is, like, can across your organization identify knowledge managers? And these are people that are responsible for, you know, this is not a full-time role, but responsible for making sure practices, not just policies, are documented, so that when you have folks retire or transition to new jobs, no information is lost in terms of how the work is being done. So I'll say I talk to a lot of clients about this often, and I'll say, you know, taking that a step further, being able to have established centralized repositories, whether that's a shared drive or something more advanced from a technology solution, where that's housed so everyone can readily access it, so you don't lose any time when your employee landscape changes a bit. So.
Thank you, Kristen. And Anthony, just a little bit more on this?
I find, like, in training, we get the best result when we put a senior staff member with a tech-savvy younger employee, and we feel like they really start to pick up what the technology is about.
Okay, good. I'm going to give you a break there, Rebecca, on that question, just in the interest of time. But I am going to hit you with the third question to start. What policy or contract limitations are currently hindering workforce development efforts, and how can we address them?
So we are obviously a state agency. We are governed by civil service and unions, and we have a lot of constraints, puts a big damper on a lot of the things that we can do. But we overcome it. We get creative. We use all of the available resources that we can to develop the workforce. So we try to look for funding, which Chuck is excited about, where we can pull things to start new programs, and like the Leadership Academy, or we recently started the Construction and Maintenance Tech Apprentice Training Program, where they're going to go through a program for the first 2 years that they're with us. Everyone will have the same structured training so that at the end of it, everyone will be trained in the same way. The HOT training program that Anthony has put together so that everyone's at that level set when they leave the training. So investing in the employees where we can so that we can overcome the salary constraints and the promotional constraints that we face because of the civil service and the unions.
Okay, and just briefly, Savita, in the interest of time, anything you'd like to expound on?
I would just say that we are in the same situation. A lot of time our training doesn't get to the full population because we, of course, have unions. And whatever our challenge will be, like always getting through to the union leaders, we always have to engage them with everything we do, because everything we do in the training department and upskilling, we want all of our agreements and agreements both to be involved in it. So that would be the only challenging to include, like things like I really want to do is apprenticeship programs and things like that to get the buy-in from the agreement employees.
Good, thank you, Savita. Anthony, in 30 seconds?
So I'll be a matter of fact, right? The procurement process, OIT, Chuck, sometimes budget, and contract, and
Catching a lot of heat.
Listen, Chuck showed me something a long time ago involving a pizza pie and slices, so I understand Chuck's world a lot better now. And in contract time restraints, what a lot of people don't understand is, you know, we're under contract for, say, training or some other initiative. And some people don't realize when that contract ends. And then it ends, and then you're scrambling, and now you start that whole procurement process over again, right? It's not so easy. So, you know, that's my perspective on that.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, would anyone like to ask a question of our panel? Please come forward. All right.
In the interest of time, it's lunch.
There's another mic there, but go ahead.
Oh, you want to take it?
No, you're fine, right there, sir.
I would like to ask the question for
Nice and close.
NJDOT.
Good.
But I'll switch it to New Jersey Transit because when we're senior leader, I'll talk to the doctor. Within the past 8 years, we've seen a barrage of lawsuits against New Jersey Transit. A newspaper article described New Jersey Transit as using a scorched earth process against people who complained about policy. How do you come into it as a news person in an agency and change over 46 years of culture, which probably was inherited by NJDOT?
I think I wouldn't even try to answer that, to be honest, because it is difficult. Our focus in our organization, our HR team, is to include, you know, not just our employees who are asset, but our communities that we serve also. We try to address that. Our communication team, our marketing team, work closely with our CEO to address questions like that. We tried our very best to have our app readily available, because we tell our employees that they are the face when they're on the train, on the bus, and out there in the community to help to answer questions. You see something, you say something. So I brought that training on our LMS and included in our orientation. So our employees are more aware of what they could help when they're out and about and they see a situation. So we try to mitigate as best as we can and answer some of the problems. And we have a lot of ambassadors now at the different train stations to help answer questions in real life.
Okay, any other questions for our panel? Okay, here we go.
3 to 5 business days later, I made it to the microphone. My question is, we were talking about AI, and I am full of opinions about AI. I will just preface that. But there is no governing of AI at this point, really. And initial studies are saying that AI is reducing intelligent capacity and people's ability to think critically because they're using it for the most basic of things. If we're trying to embrace this technology, #opinions, and I don't want to sound like a boomer who's like, yeah, technology, but at the same time, this is clearly showing indications of harm for critical thinking capacities. What is the plan or thought process behind trying to utilize something and balance it with critical thinking skills for people who can't even write a simple email at this point? Thank you.
Who would like to field that question?
I mean, I can start.
That's a good question.
It's a great
very good
question. It's a great question. I will say, I think, and I hear you, because I've seen similar studies, and I've seen studies on the opposite end too. And I think what it comes down to is a bit of education, because if you're doing things that are simple in a tool like AI, what else does that enable you to do differently, or where can you focus your strategic thinking? And so I mentioned briefly when I was doing a presentation, like ethical use of AI too, because I think there's also, like, there's not just thinking about how do you make sure people are using this as a tool to enable them rather than a tool that replaces all the work that they do, because I think we've also seen people like, oh, I can do this AI, here's the AI, I just did an AI, here it is, and you're like, oh, this is not good, because you didn't take it and look at it and like assess where you can make it or change it and make it sound human or things of that nature. So I think that education piece is part of it, but also as we think about using AI ethically, how do we also help organizations have parameters, or even just think through, now that we have AI, what does that mean for our workforce? I don't just need to like let go of 10% of the population because I can do things 10% more efficiently. What else do I do to help better like our public service, better how we interact with our constituents, like things of that nature. So I think that's just part of the example. I mean, part of the answer. I'll say, like, it's an emerging technology, so I think we don't have all the answers figured out yet. But I'll say, and like what I try to coach clients through, that's how we're approaching it.
Thank you, and it's a great question. And education is the key to it, I would say. I looked at AI as something to help us work get better, and to embrace it. Look at it positively. And one of the things we are doing to engage all of our employees, we're working closely with Rutgers University and UITP. It's an international organization, and they have bringing their training to us at Rutgers Kate. We've done each year, the last 2 years, 5 classes where we have all of our employees would register who wants to attend. And some of the courses are what's happening around the world. What is Hong Kong doing with their transportation system? How is it innovative? And you get to see how fast you could get through the process with your ticketing from comparing to what we're doing at New Jersey Transit. So we get to educate our employees from a different perspective. Not telling them you just have to do emails or spreadsheets or Excel, but how does it help us as an organization and our community to be more efficient and get data? The data part help us to figure out how can we be better? How can we do things differently? So if you take it into that perspective, you'll get more curious and want to know more about it. How much more can you help us?
Do you think that people, thank you, both of you. Do you think that, one more half question, do you think that there's going to be some sort of parameters that are going to be set around utilizing it, especially with government work and the safety? And where do you think that should come from? Do you think that should be driven by the state, or do you think it's a bigger thing, or do you think that's dependent on each organization to come up with themselves? Thank you.
That's a great question. I know for New Jersey Transit, our cybersecurity team is on top of that stuff. I mean, there's so much firewalls and everything that they're doing on their end, but I think it will be bigger than that. There have to be a lot of policies done on a very higher level to secure what needs to be taken care of.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Those are great questions. I would like to thank these very qualified transportation leaders on our panel today for sharing their intimate knowledge and expertise regarding preparing the workforce for the future. Let's give them a round of applause. If you have any further questions for the panelists, their contact information is listed here on the screen. Thank you very much, panelists. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good job. Try not to trip leaving. Great job. Okay, before lunch, we have one more aspect, which is the awards. We're now going to have the presentation of the 2025 New Jersey Department of Transportation Awards. Here to present those awards is Dr. Giri Venkatila, Research Scientist at NJDOT's Bureau of Research, Innovation, and Information Transfer. Dr. Venkatila manages a wide array of research and innovation projects and programs, serving as a subject matter expert for key initiatives like the NJDOT Innovation Program, NJ-STIC Program, AI Pilot Research, and Transportation Pooled Fund programs. He earned a doctoral degree in civil engineering from the University of Louisville, Kentucky, and work experience at as a research scholar at Northwestern University. Let's give a warm welcome to research scientist Dr. Giri Venkatila.
Thank you, Dave. You always give me 10 minutes. So I'm the only one in front of lunch, between you and lunch, right? So thank you so much, Dave, for that warm introduction. Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are enjoying this event. Debbie, I'm checking my psychological safety also. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to do this job well, okay? So this year we have 5 outstanding achievements, projects, individuals, in 5 categories. To present these awards, I would like to invite our leadership team, Eric Powers, Assistant Commissioner of Statewide Planning, Safety, and Capital Investment, and Amanda Gendek, Acting Director, Statewide Planning, and finally, Brick Manager Pragna Shah. So please come forward. Give them a big round of applause. Yeah. Okay, the first award, Outstanding University Student in Transportation Research Award. So every year we give this award to one student who excel in research and as well as in academically. The eligible criteria is like the student needs to work on one of our projects, sponsor projects, and also enroll in graduate program at NJDOT partner institutions and nominated by a project associate faculty. So this year, the award goes to Jiangshu Chang from Rutgers University. He has played a crucial role in the project called Innovation Pothole Repair Materials and Techniques, where he developed and evaluated an innovative and low-cost 3D multi-camera imaging system by capturing pothole surfaces. This system facilitates the rapid and economical scanning of potholes, enabling swift and accurate assessment of their shapes and depths. So with a perfect GPA 4 out of 4, Jung has demonstrated exceptional academic and technical capabilities. So Brit extend the best wishes for Jung's future endeavors. And I now invite Jung to come forward and accept the award. So, Jung. Next, we have NJDOT Research Implementation Award. I think student followed by professor. I think How student is the one who got this award. So Dr. Ha Wong from Rutgers University for the project Innovative Pothole Repair Materials and Methods. So every year we give this award to principal investigator who work on our project and shows the implementation capabilities of our research in our practices. And one of the some of the highlights of these projects are preheating before repair enhances the bonding between the asphalt pavements and patch materials using hot mix asphalt with 30% recycle. Asphalt can match the surpass the traditional mixes, and also they also worked on concrete patch mixes with innovative materials with different orientations and different shapes, and that's also very interesting topic. So may I now invite Dr. Hawang, please come forward and receive the award. Thank you. The next category is Best Poster Award. So please give a big round of applause for all the students who did exceptional job this year by putting all the posters. Please visit them during the after the lunch sessions. So they did a great job. So this year the award goes to Muhammad Tujafal Hussain from NJIT for the poster on harsh braking as a surrogate for crash risk, a segment analysis with connected vehicle telematics. Yeah, congratulations once again. Okay, next category is Build a Better Mouse Trap Award. Build a Better Mouse Trap Award recognizes innovation solutions from local and state transportation challenges. Each year, NJSTIC and NJLTAP honor outstanding public agency employees for their creativity in improving our roadways and services. This year, the award goes to Division of Mobility and Operations team, Jock Longworth, Crystal Goldman, Vandana Mathur, Michael Giuliano, Sean Mount, and Crystal Section for project on Safety Service Patrol Picture Language flashcards. So first we will see a short video about this initiative, then we will invite the team for the awards.
Hello, my name is Jack Longworth. I'm the Director, Mobility Engineering and Operations. And our mousetrap was the Safety Service Patrol photo flashcard. The Safety Service Patrol is a critical service, extremely important, that helps disabled motorists along freeways and interstates that need assistance. So their job is to get them the help that they need and back up and on their way as soon as possible. In anticipation for the FIFA 2026 World Cup, in which New Jersey will host 8 matches, including the final match, we are anticipating a lot of guests from a lot of other nations all around the world to be here for these matches. If while driving their vehicles they run into a problem along our interstates and freeways, we wanted a way to effectively be able to help them. There will be many people that will be driving that will not be able to read and understand English, and these flashcards are a way for our SSP operators to be able to assist them. While many people may not understand or speak English, they can understand the photographs, and they can point to the photograph of the situation that with the problem that they're experiencing. So if there's a photo that we have in our flashcards that they can point to communicate to the SSP operator the problem that they're having. We worked with our Division of Civil Rights to identify the 12 most commonly spoken languages in New Jersey. And on the back of each photograph, it describes the situation in each of these 12 languages. We identified a problem and we created a task force of leadership within mobility operations and also with a representative from the Mobility Innovation Bureau. And we formed a group of 5 of us, and we worked on brainstorming ideas on how exactly we wanted this to look and how it could be most effective for those needing assistance. Every second counts when somebody's stranded on the side of the road. It's a hazard for them with traffic moving past them at high speeds, and it's a hazard for the traffic passing them as well because they look, and that could result in secondary incidents. It feels great to be recognized and for the group that came up with this and worked very hard to be recognized. But more importantly, we take a lot of pride that this is a solution that will be actually used. We're in the process of deploying these, and it's something that will really help people, and it expands the Safety Service Patrol's reach in being able to effectively help people, and that makes me feel the best at the end of the day.
Yes, that's an initiative. So please give a big round of applause to the mobility team. So may I now invite the team members? Yeah, team members, yeah, please come forward. Yeah. Thank you for the innovative solution. Okay, next we have our National High Value Research Award. So BRIT initiate this award to encourage our projects to compete with other states. So every year we compete the nominations with all other state projects, and we get nominations sometimes we don't get it, but this year we get 2 nominations for honorable mentions, and these 2 projects compete with other regional projects also. So give them a big round of applause for all these 2 projects which really put DOT projects in the national map. So the first award goes to ASTO High Value Research Supplemental Category Maintenance, Management and Preservation. The project name is Innovative Techniques and Materials for Preventing Concrete Shrinkage Cracking. PI Principal Investigator Gilson Lamboy from Rowan University, and co-PIs Shiho Kawashima, Douglas Carey and Cheng Chu, and TAP members, NJDOT TAP members, Yong Zheng and Emmanuel Bassi, and research project manager myself. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So please, team, come forward to receive the award as a group. So PIs, co-PIs, and RPMs, and also the TAP members. I don't see any TAP member. Well, this is a little awkward. I get my own award. Okay, so next, our final award category for ASTO High Value Research Supplemental Category Safety, Security and Emergencies and Maintenance. The project name Real-Time Traffic Signal System Performance Measurement, Phase 2, System Integration, Intersection Deployment, and Control Center Dashboard Deployment. So the project PI, Peter Jain from Rutgers University, and co-PIs Mohammad Jalayer and Thomas Benin, and TAP members Kelly McVeigh and Hiran Patel, and our RPM Priscilla Uppa. So project team, please come forward. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pragna. Thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Eric. With that, we can conclude this ceremony here, and also thank you very much for all your time and effort for this event. And please do visit our website, NJDOT website, and as well as NJ Tech Transfer website for more information on about our projects and programs. And we also have 2 openings in our bureau. So I'm gonna shamelessly advertise now. So if you want to apply, so please see us or see the front desk for 2 openings for our EET openings. Okay, so thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, one more minute, guys. At this time, we're going to take a 45-minute lunch break. There are 2 buffet stations, one in the back dining area, and one is just outside these doors on the left. Please form 2 lines. There's additional seating in rooms 122 and 123. Lastly, review your programs for 3 concurrent breakout sessions and the poster display, which will commence after lunch at 1 p.m. prompt. Depending on your interest, feel free to change rooms in between sessions. Thank you and enjoy your lunch. Thank you. Oh, I don't know why. I did not want to miss. I got program volume. I couldn't get the